Heiko Maas.
You're listening to the Pool Boy Podcast.
Hello, welcome back to the Pool Boy Podcast. It's Steve here, and I've got Bob and Katie with me, and it's a little while since we've been with you on the Pool Boy Podcast. In fact, not since the aftermath of the World Championships in Fukuoka. So as we come to the end of 2023, we thought we would take this opportunity just to run the rule over some of the bigger events in British swimming that have happened since we were last with you. And then we have a big British team heading to Romania next week for the European Short Course Championship. So we'll take a look at what we might expect over there as well. But coming to the end of 2023, that does of course mean we're heading well and truly into Olympic season, Bob, and Olympic fever will start to hit us.
Getting very excited by that, Steve, because reading up with Tom Dean saying he's going for 6 medals next summer. He's got the juices starting to go already. Love to see that. Really love to see that, and obviously that would make him way ahead of any other swimmer that's ever been there for GB. So, you know, the rhetoric is starting up, the stakes are getting higher, and of course trials won't be too far away. We'll see the big guns and maybe some new guns coming through as well. I think there's going to be a few surprise names getting on that team for Paris next year.
And Katie, for the swimmers, is everything kind of overshadowed by the Olympic year coming? Do you think, you know, everything they do is in the context of getting to Paris and then performing when they get there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I imagine it probably feels a bit kind of special and different this year, not only because it's an Olympic year, but kind of having seen how the last one was overshadowed by COVID and, you know, the struggles that everyone had getting there. It probably feels a lot more like there's a level playing field and far more people have a chance to really give it their all and show what they can do this year. So I agree with Bob. I actually hope there's some unexpected names on the team, because that's normally my favourite bit of watching trials, you know, kind of people who hoped they'd make it or didn't think that they'd make it at all, kind of coming through and having that breakthrough. So looking forward to it.
All right, well, people are starting to, as I say, put themselves, get their preparations, underway with Paris in mind. Somebody who made a move a couple of months ago now, but as I say, some just after Worlds, James Guy, who left the Bath Performance Centre, moved back to Millfield to train with Matt Richards and his coach Ryan Livingston there. Bob, was surprised to see that move?
Yeah, I was a little surprised, but I was told about it just after the Worlds. In fact, when I was at the World Juniors, the World Juniors in Israel, that was all the talk. I talked to his former coach, Joel Fink, out there, and obviously he was getting all the lowdown as to why it happened. And James just wanted to be in a place where he felt maybe a bit more comfortable going into what will be definitely his last Olympic Games. Having seen maybe what Matt's managed to achieve in the short time he's been there, has given him the encouragement to make the break. I'm sure that the relationship he had with Dave down there, Dave McNulty, was very good. But he's thinking, right, what do I need? An extra bit of motivation, an extra little bit of zest to take me into Paris next year. And thinking, right, I've got a year to do it. Yeah, maybe to slightly change my training program for it. Had to do it that far out, and so far I think it's paying dividends for him.
Katie, do you think it reflects on just the fact he's been at Bath for a long time now? I mean, obviously Bath had great success. He's had great success while he's been there. He knows Millfield. He knows Matt. He's seen what Matt's done. Is it just not leaving any stone unturned, really, and not living with regrets?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you look back at James's career so far, there's nothing he hasn't done. World champion, Olympic champion. You know, he's kind of done it all, and I think he's not someone who wants to go out with questions over his career. So, kind of just throwing everything at it. You know, he sounded positive about his time at Bath and time with Dave. I know, you know, Dave's a hugely respected and liked coach across the swimming community, and certainly he seems to still feel that based on an interview I've heard with him. But sometimes you just need a change, and you might say it's only a year, but a year's a long time, especially when you're putting yourself on the line kind of every day. And you've just got to do what's right for you. And it's pretty brave to make a move in an Olympic year, but I think he knows what he's doing. So hopefully it will pay off and we'll see a happy and a fast James Guy in Paris.
What he doesn't have yet is an individual Olympic medal. He should have got one, as far as I'm concerned, in Tokyo. I was very annoyed he didn't get the chance to do the 100 fly. I know that's water under a lot of bridges since then, but that's one thing he doesn't have in his armoury. He's got loads of relay medals, great, and I know I got into a bit of trouble with his dad for saying I hope James Guy's legacy is not going to be a great relay swimmer, because he's a great individual swimmer, but hasn't had the chance, often not because of what he's done or his decision making in terms of getting an individual medal. So I hope that will be allowed to happen. He'll be allowed to swim an individual event after qualifying for it in Paris next year.
Yeah, it's really hard to know how those decisions are being made, isn't it? Like, is it that he needs someone who he feels is going to fight his corner with him to say, no, I've qualified for the 100 fly and I want to swim the 100 fly, or is that just is that not a discussion? Like, I don't know how it works when they get to these big events. And, I think Dave McNulty definitely always has his swimmer's best interest at heart, but maybe he's kind of too close to the sort of centre of British swimming to be able to say no in those moments. But, I definitely don't know what I'm talking about. I don't have an into any of the workings of that. So it'll be really interesting to see.
I'm not going to betray confidences on this, but I just think that he needs to get the chance to say, look, can you do the programme you've got? And will that have an impact on the medley relay, which of course is an important thing from a GB point of view. But I don't want to see James go have a chance of maybe qualifying third for a final or second for a final, and then find out when the list of the finalists comes out, he's been scratched. Because to me, that's unfair on him.
Well, there's a long way to go before we know how that will pan out, but we'll obviously keep a close eye on it, and indeed on how James's move plays out for him. Another of our sort of top men who's been making headlines recently, Adam Peaty. He had that period out of the pool this year, went off and did some different things, trained in Barcelona with Ben Titley, obviously took that break to refresh mentally. Bob, you were following him a little on the World Cup tour when he made his comeback. How did he look to you?
Well, to me, over 50, he looked very good. When he got into the groove, certainly by the time he got to Budapest, I thought all the things were starting to come together, all the kind of nuances of what Adam Peaty does and what he can do were starting to work for him. Over 50, I saw that in Athens, and over 100, I started to see that a bit more in Budapest. So I think it's very much work in progress. He's certainly nowhere near where he wants to be, not doing the times he wants to do. And there's a certain Chinese who's obviously keeping him at arm's length at the moment. But I thought I saw enough signs that he can build on what he's already got in the 50 to translate that into the 100 next year.
Well, he was 59 low, Katie, best time across that World Cup series. Chin Hyang, as Bob was alluding to, won that series swimming very fast. He's obviously a massive threat and probably a favourite now for Paris as well. 59.2 or whatever Adam posted, it's not going to be good enough for an Olympic podium. Do you think that there's enough time between now and July next year for him to get back down 58 low, 57 high?
I think there's enough time. I don't know if all he needs is time, though. Clearly he's had a tough couple of years, and it's great that he's got the support of Mel as his long-time coach. But you kind of question if things have been tough for a while, do you actually need a change? And that's no reflection on Mel or on that training program at all. But I mean, I really wouldn't have been surprised if he did a sort of James Guy-esque move and said, maybe I'm going to stick and train with Ben Titley for a bit longer, or just try something else, because there have been a lot of challenges for him that he's had to cope with, and sometimes a refresh is a really good thing. So whether sticking with what is the right thing to do, or a change would have been better, it's it had to go one way or the other, and he's sticking with Mel, and I hope that's I hope that is what he needs. But it's I mean, I don't think we'll see him in another Olympic cycle. I don't know if he's come out and said that, but it's quite a lot of time to drop, I think, particularly when we're used to seeing him swimming fast pretty much all the time. the 59 looks like a bit of an effort at the moment, and it was an effort to get down there. And we used to see him, 58 kind of every other day. Every time he raced, he seemed to be down in the 58s. So I don't go into this Olympic year feeling the same as I have done in the last couple of Olympic years about him, but I'd very much like to be proven wrong.
I see the building blocks, though. So I'm saying from the 50s, is gradual progression and improvement from the first one to the last one. I think there's a massive improvement there. 100 less so, but I think there's just enough to build on, and I think he has long enough to build upon it for next summer.
I think as long as he's, as Casey says, as long as he's happy in himself and committing because he wants to do it and not because he feels he should do it, then I think, there's every opportunity he can get back. Certainly he seemed much more content when you listen to him after his races on that World Cup series. He seemed much more content, more comfortable in his skin, if you like. So fingers crossed.
Well, the problem is he's he may not see it like this, but he's obligated, isn't he, in a way, because without him, that medley relay doesn't win a gold medal.
I don't know if he works like that, and that is not implying that he's not a team player. I just think like maybe it is implying that he is a team player. If he doesn't feel like he's in the right place to give everything that he can, I'm not sure that he'll put himself in that position or put the team in that position. I think he's all commitment, isn't he? And if he doesn't feel that he's where he needs to be for the team, I don't think. But
the best one in the world, James Wilby. James is our second choice there. James might get some medal, but James is not going to help us to a gold medal. No,
and it's an interesting conundrum that the British swimming have in that scenario. I'm sure something I think we'll come back to a little bit later, but fingers crossed that Adam can keep that progression going, and we'll see him, back to something like his best by the time trials roll round. Adam and James were both named, perhaps unsurprisingly, on the British Swimming funding list for this season, which was remarkably unchanged from the year before. British Swimming have had a habit of tinkering with the people they've named on that programme, but it was basically the same as last year, with a few extras added to the top tier, particularly those who swam at Worlds. Freya Colbert, Katie Shanahan, Laura Stevens added, moving up from the lower tiers, and Ollie Morgan, who was the big breakthrough on the backstroke, securing a spot as well. The name that stuck out to me, Casey, was Kathleen Dawson, who's kept on the funding, which is quite a lot of faith shown by British Swimming, and I'm not saying that's the wrong thing to do, but it's slightly uncharacteristic, I think, given some of the ruthless decisions we've seen them make in the last 4 or 5 years. Were you surprised to see her there?
To be honest, yes. And, I say this with great sympathy because she's been horribly injured and that's absolutely not her fault. And she's still going, which is incredibly admirable. But admirable character hasn't been rewarded often in the past by British Swimming when looking at injured athletes. And, to me, it really smacks of throwing all their eggs in that mixed medley basket, desperately hoping we can repeat the success of Tokyo. But I was really surprised. It's just not something that you tend to see injured athletes given the benefit of the doubt. And you know what, she raced quite a lot last year. So presumably we hope that the injury is better, but she was a long way off her best. And that's really, really tough. But yeah, she's not so far been in the position of that we saw her in Tokyo, where she was so competitive. But hopefully she will get there, and they know things that we don't, that suggest that she'll be back up to where she was come trials and the Olympics.
I see the artist formerly known as Ben Proud is now Benjamin Proud, by the way. You noticed that?
Yeah, that's probably my editing skills, Bob, to be honest. But yeah, it's a bit like Adam, though, isn't it, really, that Kathleen's at 60-point low, and we know she's a 58-point swimmer, and it's just a matter of time, Bob. She's got to, work her way back in.
Well, I hope so. And again, in that department, we don't have a lot of options, and they obviously see enough in her that if she can rehabilitate and get her injury problems behind her, then she's shown in the past she's capable of doing that. She hasn't got a lot of time to get there. But again, what I hear about her training and her mindset is she is more likely to do it than most.
I think that's one where we probably do have some options. I mean, admittedly, at her best, she's a step above the backups. But I think Maddie Harris and Lauren Cox have shown promise that they're close enough to her. I think that they're viable alternatives. But I do completely agree that Kathleen at her best is another level above. So maybe it's less of an issue than perhaps with Adam. But
I think they're viable alternatives for a relay, but I don't think they're viable alternatives for a medal-winning relay.
Okay.
And that's with no disrespect to them, but a 58.0 100 back is a world away from a 59 low 100 back. And it's great that we've got a couple more ladies under a minute, but it's a huge difference, and it's the same on the breaststroke as you say. A 5900 breaststroker is nothing like a 57 low 56 high 100 breaststroker.
True, it's true. Well, we'll watch Kathleen's progress towards trials with interest, of course. Someone who wasn't named onto any of the funding lists was Fleur Lewis, distance swimmer, training at Loughborough, but she kind of made a bit of a statement at Bucks just recently. She swam the 1500 short course in a new British record of
Hooray!
15:46.15, I think.
Yeah.
She was only the third British swimmer to break 16 minutes for that event.
What was Becky Cook's record? How long was that on the books for?
So yes, Becky Cook holding the record at 15:51 since 2005. So one that's lasted 18 years, and Fleur taking 6 seconds or over 6 seconds off that.
And now we have two exceptional youngsters in the 1500, where we've had a cupboard that's been bare for a long time. In fact, let's talk about it. The 1500s, obviously, it's since been an Olympic event. We've not had anybody world class or getting close to a final or indeed competing in the 1500. We now have two juniors who are knocking out really good times.
Indeed. So we spoke to Kev Renshaw earlier in the year, Bob, and he was saying he was doing that work to try and bring those swimmers through. We've now had the 3 of the 5 fastest 1500 short course swimmers all time in the UK in the last few weeks. Amber Keegan was 16:03 at Bucks. Obviously, Amelie Bloxage, she set a British age group record. 15:56 was only the second woman ever to break 16 minutes, and then Fleur's British record. So, no, that's encouraging stuff, Katie.
Yeah, it is. I'd like to see them do it long course. I know that's really unfair, but it's quite a different event. I think particularly I think there's a lot of focus on turns underwaters, which can make a huge difference, particularly over that distance. But let's take our encouraging signs when we can. I've got to say, because I am hugely fond of Becky Cook, it's always sad to see her go from the record books, but we do need to move things on, and it's really great to see a new name on there. So congratulations to Fleur, and fingers crossed for long course.
And remember that the likes of David Davis and Jazz Carlin, our distance swimmers, always said they had terrible turns anyway. So, and they managed to achieve what they achieved with terrible turns. So see what they could do if they improved their turns.
I'm not sure that Becky Cooks were the strongest either. So
no, they weren't.
I think it's great that hung around for such a long time. It just shows what a good record it was.
No, and I thoroughly endorse your admiration of Becky Cook. She was great. So there we are. I mentioned Amber Keegan there. She was in at number 5. Just a bit disappointed she didn't crack 16 minutes. She'll have another go at the British English short course.
She will, but I mean, her eyes are really on open water.
Exactly where I was going. Yeah, so she's off to Portugal with the open water team for the Open Water World Cup in a few days' time. Mainly the usual suspects in that team: Leah Crisp, Alice Deering, Ella Dyson, Nathan Hughes, Hector Pardo and Toby Robinson. But one name, Bob, caught my eye, the last member of that team, Daniel Jervis, making an open water debut. Do you think that's a last-minute bid for the Olympics, or just trying it?
It's very late. I mean, I'm not quite sure. Is it a one-off that Dan wants to see? Maybe he wants a bit of practice. Maybe he wants a bit of training in the water. I don't know. I mean, I've got to say, December, when the water's probably at its coldest, it wouldn't be my idea of making an open water debut, quite frankly. Yeah, in June or July when it's nice and warm, different situation. But he's got to be realistic when he looks at the times in the 1500 now in the world. He's really going to have to improve massively at trials and carry it into the Olympics for him to get into that top 8. The top 8 is going to be, again, for qualification, probably 14:45, maybe 14:42 to make the final. And so that means he's going to have to bring that British record down again to even get into the final.
Yeah, I agree. That would have to be his aim. But we'll see. We'll watch with interest how he gets on in Funchal in Portugal and see where that takes him. Right, let's move on to looking forward rather than backwards a bit more. You've got the European short course coming up for the end of the year. Now, Britain is taking a team of 35 to that meet, which was surprisingly large. I'm not a competition that Britain has tended to support. 2019 accepted when we were hosting. We haven't always given short course as much importance. Katie, you swam European short course once or twice. Is it a bit of year-end fun, or is it a competition that everyone takes quite seriously, especially obviously pre-Olympic year?
I always swam absolutely pants there because it's just not a time of year that I was ever kind of race ready. And I think it's not something that people are going to rest for. It's going to be, a swimming through kind of event, I would have thought, just because it's Olympic year and kind of all eyes are on the trials. Maybe to an extent Doha for anyone who's going to go. But I think it's we don't get that many opportunities to race fast short course. If you're the right kind of group, you'll swim at Bucks, and I think a lot of people swim really fast there, but that's not something that's open to everyone. So, it's certainly something that is taken seriously. The fact that they're taking a big team suggests that it's a meet that, we're taking seriously and are using as an opportunity to perhaps try out some different relay lineups. I think they just have 4x50 relays in European short course, but it gives different people a chance to swim together, which is not something that we get to do often. So I think it'll be interesting. Personally, I've been missing high-level short course racing. I've been thinking back nostalgically of the ISL years. So I'm looking forward to seeing what people can do. We've got an awful lot of people who swim fast a lot of the time, to be honest. So I think it could be pretty impressive, and good to see such a big team going with a few from the sort of the second tier of funding, which is interesting, and a few completely unfunded swimmers. A friend of the podcast, Imogen Clark, who we get to see what she can do. Hopefully get on the podium. That'll be really nice. So it'll be good to watch.
Can I have a little moan at this stage, please?
You may.
Always.
I think we should have put some more money into the World Juniors. Myself, I think we should have. We had nobody there. We didn't have a single swimmer there. I think that would have been a great chance for some of the young ones to get experience.
Yeah, well, I think you've mentioned that before this year already, and you're obviously having been involved. It hasn't changed your view. I think a few of those young swimmers have got a chance here, who might have been there, and obviously the big team went to European Juniors. But yeah, I think it would have been good to have a British team in Israel for that meet. Katie, you say you always swam pants at European short course. I think in your defence, in the Bill Sweetenham era that you swam through, you probably had to swim in a Victorian woolen swimming costume or something, didn't you?
I seem to remember being in Heat 1 with a Belarusian who's since served a drug ban, who didn't have, in fact, I think was in Heat 1 because she didn't have a recent time in 100 freestyle, and just sort of seeing her going the other way, she was so far ahead of me. So it doesn't have particularly fond memories for me, particularly as I think it was hosted in Finland, and there was some very questionable fish mousse that was served for most meals.
You got the fish mousse, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think in your defence again, the Belarusian you're referring to was then Olympic champion in 2016. Was she not?
Yeah, no, she was one of the ones that I think Fran Housel looks at annoyed about that 53 in Rio, because she doesn't feel like she should be there after her drugs ban, which I quite agree with.
Anyway, let's get back to the team heading to Romania. Yes, you mentioned Imogen Clark. I was very happy to see her on the list. And I think that's interesting for two reasons. One, that they've picked her as a 50 specialist, but perhaps because they are looking beyond Cara Hanlon in the context of what's going to happen next year for relays and what have you. We spoke earlier about backups to Adam and James in the men's breaststroke. Now, neither of them are going to Romania. Adam is swimming in Rotterdam long course before that meet, along with most of the Bath Performance Centre squad, as far as I can tell, and a number of other swimmers from Loughborough and wherever. But Archie Goodburn and Greg Butler, who seem to be kind of the next cabs off the rank, Bob, they've got the opportunity here to spend some time with the British coaches and, you know, perhaps state their case for being the next people to be considered.
Yeah, so I was just checking through your sheets, and Archie's not funded at the moment. So, and Greg's not funded either.
No, not this year. No.
So we've got two breaststrokers who are coming along now. Neither Adam or James are going to carry on beyond Paris, I'm sure. So there's going to be a massive void there.
So yeah, big opportunity, as I say, for them to kind of stake a claim for that position going forward. And it is a very big team. As I say, it's unusual to send such a big team. Probably the majority of the Olympic team is going to come from within this group. I know, Katie, you said you're always keen to see bolters coming from outside, and we like seeing a few of those people surprise us at trials. But is it also an opportunity to kind of build a bit of team spirit? You know, they took everyone away to the holding camp location before Worlds last year. We've got everyone together now for a week, away in Romania for a meet. Is building a kind of the team culture and the team spirit, if you like, just as important as the results?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think the more everyone is rooting for each other, you know, when you come to a big meet, the more you've got that team cohesion. I think it can just build throughout a meet. You know, you kind of ride off someone else's success, and if that person's quite remote and sort of distance from you, then I don't think you get that momentum in the same way. So I think the more that they can build that feeling, the better. I mean, I'm not expecting there to be a huge number of rookies on the Olympic team. I imagine there'll be a lot of people who are quite seasoned, you know, GB representatives. But that is a big group and I agree that I think the majority of the Olympic team will come from it. They haven't all been to an Olympics or Worlds before. So I think that's got to be a huge part of it.
A couple of interesting names to highlight, Steve. I think Alexander Kohun, who's potential, and Evan Jones, potential as well. I think first GB call-ups for those two.
Yeah, Alex swam really well at the European Under-23s, I think. And I think he's probably one of that group that's hovering around the 4x1, maybe sneak in a sixth spot or something for that. Who knows next year? But yeah, great opportunity for both of them. And I think Evan, the hierarchy think he's an option in the 4x2 similarly.
Try to get.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking team. Maybe longer term. You know, after as you say, we probably aren't going to have James after Paris, so someone's going to have to fill that void. Maybe he's an option going forward, but yeah, great opportunity for them to get some experience and swim with the rest of the team. I think I'm looking forward just to seeing Matt Richards short course, because he was super fast this time last year at English Nationals, and he's had an amazing year this year, so seeing what he could do would be quite interesting. And it's always great to see, you know, people like Tom Dean and you know, his ilk, you know, testing themselves, and he'll obviously have
see what Duncan's up to.
Duncan, yes, of course, and they'll have the hometown hero David Popovic to contend with as well. So that's always going to be
see what he does
fun.
After a very lackluster year by his standards.
Yeah, and I'm sure he'll want to do well for his home fans. So there could be some fireworks in the 200 free as normal, maybe, and the 100 as well. So. Should be good. I think
I'd be quite interested to see Katie Shanahan doing some backstroke short course, because we've seen what she can do long course, and you know, she's made massive improvements in the backstroke over the past year. So I think I'd quite like to see maybe her get up there and be on a podium, because she's really breaking through at the moment. I don't know if she will. I don't think she swam backstroke at Bucks. She seemed to focus on the IM there with great success. But yeah, I'd just be interested to see if she can get on that podium.
And good signs for Ollie Morgan on the 100, I thought, on one of the World Cup events, the last one in Budapest.
Yeah, and he was pretty good at Bucks as well. So, there'll be some interesting people to keep an eye on who are maybe hovering around that Olympic team and who will be hoping to make it to Paris. And so interesting to see how they back up those debuts from earlier in the year, or kind of show themselves in their debut, if that is indeed what they're doing on this squad. All right, I think that's a good time to draw a line under things. We'll perhaps be back and have a chat about what happens in Romania in a couple of weeks when we know what's happened, just to round out that meet and see whether we get any fireworks and some British medals to talk about. Great as always, Katie, Bob, to chat with you. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
As I say, hopefully we'll be back in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, if you want to get in contact at all, it's at Poolboy on X, as it is now, at Poolboy UK on Instagram or Facebook, poolboy.co.uk/contact if you want to send an email. And until the next time, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Poolboy Podcast. For more episodes, visit www.poolboy.co.uk/podcast.